Inferential Comprehension Interventions, Grade 5 English Language Arts. Elizabeth Bartow, University of New England. When I assessed my case study student using the Fountas and Pinnell benchmark assessment, she exhibited strong accuracy and fluency with text, but struggled to pull main ideas from the text or answer inferential questions. This is a common tangle for students transitioning from learning to read to reading to learn. Inferential comprehension is a critical component of this transition and requires a complex integration of skills. In this presentation, I will explore 3 interventions that I believe will support this student, as well as many others in my classroom. Explicit small group instruction of specific inferencing skills, the main idea strategy, and character perspective instruction. Character perspective taking not only supports inferential comprehension, but also honors students as they learn to be empathetic humans using literature. In my classroom, I have strived to differentiate my instruction in order to meet students where they are as readers and writers. By utilizing the Reading and Writing Workshop framework, I have been able to allow choice and ownership to an extent while being able to meet with individuals in small groups on a regular basis. I vary the texts I use in these groups based on student need and interest. We do a lot of goal setting, mostly on an individual basis, using rubrics for writing, and using a variety of measures for reading: text complexity, genre, and page number goals. These goals are made by students quarterly. The first intervention I read about was small group teaching of specific inferencing skills. The article I read was a meta-analysis of studies done on inferential instruction. It made a positive difference when the instruction was done in a small group and the skills were taught explicitly. For example, the teacher models the thinking involved in finding information to support an inference and guides students in practicing the skill. Other specific skills taught were found to be effective were integrating information from different texts and activating prior knowledge to make an inference. The article talked about the difference between 2 types of inferences, one in which the inference is supported solely by text, and one in which prior knowledge is combined with that information. Both of these can and should be taught. Interestingly, struggling readers' inferential and literal comprehension were likely to improve when taught these skills. In my classroom, I can do this work during my book club meetings. Book clubs are something I already do, so using this strategy will be manageable. Not only will students hear my thinking, they will hear each other's and can build off of each other's ideas. Formatively assessing students can be done throughout student discussions through observation. In his article, Reading Assessment, Afflerbach stresses the importance of formatively assessing students in order to inform instruction. This can be done with book club assignments as well. Students can write about inferences made in their reading journals. Character perspective instruction involves a focus on character emotions and motivations throughout a story as opposed to primarily focusing on structural elements of a story. This promotes students being able to take on the perspective of different characters. The article I read, Beyond the Story Map, Inferential Comprehension via Character Perspective, outlined the many benefits of this intervention for students. The most compelling to me was that taking on the perspectives of characters allows students to take the leap of taking on perspectives of other people in their lives, to consider different, possibly opposing viewpoints. My case study student has struggled socially and emotionally, and an intervention that targets empathy while supporting comprehension of text is an ultimate win. The article discusses how literature can help students use insights gained from their reading to learn social skills and conflict resolution skills. The intervention includes a chart called CHAMP, the chart for multiple perspectives. This graphic organizer asks students to record what they think a character is thinking or feeling, and they provide text evidence for their inferences. Then they repeat the process for a different character. The teacher can have the student complete this process multiple times throughout a story, which will allow students to think about the plot of the story as well. The author suggests this could take the place of a traditional story map to support students learning story structure. I could use this strategy again during book club assignments and discussions. In the article, the interventionists measured progress by asking open-ended questions about characters' thinking and feeling. They asked the same type of questions over time to measure growth. Growth could also be measured by looking at results of benchmark reading assessments. These assessments usually include literal and inferential questions. The graphic organizer could also be used independently and as an assessment. The last intervention I read about was the main idea strategy. With this strategy, students are taught a mnemonic that guides them through the process of determining the main idea of a text. The steps include: make the topic known, accent at least 2 essential details, ink out the clarifying details, notice how the essential details are related, and infer the main idea. The author suggests pre-testing with an independently read text, then explicitly teaching each of the steps by modeling, thinking aloud, and practicing with the student. I would think this would make a great whole class sequence of mini lessons for the modeling and thinking aloud, and then the teacher could work with small groups as needed or individually. After the instructional sequence, the teacher asks the student to complete the process independently to assess growth. This could be done multiple times to monitor progress with main idea over time. Following this model, the teacher could provide feedback to the student for how to improve, and could follow up again either as a small group or individually. Afflerbach reminds us that assessment needs to provide us with useful information and should not cause harm. In other words, is the information we gain from the assessment useful enough to validate its use? While standardized testing may be necessary for accountability, what information do we gain from it as teachers that informs our instruction? How can we balance this in our classrooms? What is the purpose of each of our assessments? How much time should we dedicate to preparing for a standardized test when we could be utilizing other information we have gained about our students and teaching them skills to grow as readers, writers, and people? All of the interventions presented will support not only my case study student, but many students who are struggling with inferential thinking. Character perspective taking really ties all of this work nicely together by honoring the idea that our ultimate goal as educators, I hope, is to support students in becoming empathetic members of our world. Reading literature that offers opportunities to analyze different perspectives promotes deep thinking about texts and also about life.